So this is just a short clip to explain a little bit of something that I didn't talk about in class, namely the income and substitution effects of a price change. And you'll find some discussion of this in section 4.2 of chapter 5. The basic idea here is that sort of two things happen at once when a price changes. And I'll just consider the example of a price, the price of gasoline going up. And what we thought about when we thought about a demand curve, say an individual's response to an increase in the price of gasoline, is that the quantity demanded would decline. But the point that we can also think about is that there are really two things happening at the same time. When the price of gasoline goes up, then we could say that a person's real income actually goes down. And we saw this actually discussed in chapter 10, the idea of real income or your purchasing power over goods in general. So if gasoline is an important component of your expenditures, which it is for a lot of people, then this increase in the price of gasoline can have sort of spillover effects on other kinds of goods, on demand for other kinds of goods. So that we could say that in general, a person's real income goes down if the price of something important in their spending has gone up. So this is what's called the income effect of a price change. Now, you might wonder, well, if a person's real income has changed in some way, does this mean that their demand curve shifts? Because after all, in the discussion of the supply and demand model in chapter 4, what you were told was that if people's incomes change, then the demand curve shifts. But do we see a shift here, or what's going on? So in this particular case, because the decline in real income is coming about as a result of this price increase, the demand curve doesn't shift. We simply see a change in the quantity demanded. So the increase in the price and this decrease in quantity demanded sort of incorporates two things. It incorporates the lower demand as a result of declining real income, and also lower demand because we have a substitution effect. That is, gasoline has now become relatively more expensive compared with other goods. You'll remember that whenever we do a thought experiment like this and say, what happens if the price of gasoline goes up from $1.20 to $1.80, what we're assuming is that the prices of other goods and services are being held constant. So if the price of gasoline goes up like this, its price relative to other goods goes up. That's going to lead people to substitute away from gasoline, and they'd be more inclined to buy other things that are now relatively cheaper. So that's the substitution effect that everybody thinks about when a price goes up. But the point of this discussion of the income effect is to say that real incomes also change, and that's sort of incorporated as we move along the demand curve here. So the general point is that as prices change along a demand curve, people's real incomes change as well. Now, because people's real incomes have changed, it could be the case that demand for other goods and services actually decreases. So here's an example. We could imagine that the price of gasoline has gone up, and as I explained just a minute ago, that means that people's real income has gone down. So if people's real income has gone down, and say this good is a normal good, say fresh fruit, then the decline in income is going to lead to a shift in the demand curve. And so we could have the price of gasoline going up, causing real incomes to decline, and that's going to lead to a decrease in demand here for fresh fruit in my example. And one thing I suppose to note, which I have here, is that fresh fruit is essentially unrelated to gasoline. They're not substitutes, they're not complements, they're just kind of unrelated goods. Nevertheless, if the change in the price of gas has a significant effect on people's incomes, then we might want to think about the way in which that would affect the demand for other goods. So I hope this little explanation of the income and substitution effect has been of some use.